Welcome, guys, to another episode of the All Ears podcast with me, Luke Barnatt. This podcast was invented for me to learn more about the world. I felt like as I became a good fighter, the better I got, the more I had to learn. The more I'm learning about all these things in life, I feel like I know so little. So I bring on interesting guests to talk to them about different topics in the world. I try and learn along with them, and they get to teach me things, and hopefully you guys learn as well. Welcome, guys, another episode of the All Ears podcast. Quick announcement. I've officially been monetized on YouTube, which makes me the man, apparently. I don't know anything about YouTube or anything about monetization, but I'm happy. Anyway, I'm happy about it. So someone sent me €2. I'm very, very thankful for that. Again, a super thing. I don't know what it is. Awesome stuff. We've got a super interesting podcast. I mentioned YouTube because we have a great YouTuber on the podcast. Like I said, we always start with a question, a bit different. But David, what do you think is harder now in 2023? Finding a chick worth marrying or getting in shape over the age of 35? Because I'm 35 and I'm struggling a bit.
Well, I'm 34, so I don't know how much I can answer the second part. I've tried to maintain my shape and not let it go. I know you let it go a little bit this last couple of years, but you're looking fitter now.
I'm slowly getting back there, slowly and generally, but it's good.
Yeah. So getting a chick worth marrying or staying in shape over 35. I imagine the first one's more difficult. I mean, maybe if you're like 60, 70 years old, maybe the balance starts to tilt more to staying in shape at that age. But I think if you're like 35 to 45, even 35 to 50, I would say getting in shape is probably, like, you just got to fucking do the steps, right? Like, maybe it takes a little bit longer versus if you were 25, but...
I read a stat recently, maybe you saw it as well, that in America, the average man is fatter, has a higher fat percentage than a pig. A pig has 20%, and the average man in America has over 20% body fat.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is mental.
I've never heard of frames like that, but I can see it.
They're clever on Twitter, and they know how the hell they do it. But I bring up the finding a woman because obviously you got married last year, I believe.
A little over a year ago.
A year ago now, so I've been married coming up 10 years. Yeah. But I feel like for me, 10 years ago, we lived in a different world. Yeah. Now, finding chicks with Tinder and Instagram and all this bullshit going on, like, it's a difficult thing. You obviously mastered it. You give a lot of advice to the guys on dating and picking up chicks and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really interested in, how you see that at 34. You got married at 34 or 33?
I got married right before I turned 33. No. Man, I'm going to have to do some math here on the spot. Somewhere in that range, 32, 33, 30. I'm 34 now, but yeah.
And how do you manage to do it in this day and age with the women, the level of women that I'm seeing?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right. I did meet my wife, 6-7 years ago, and even then was a bit of not even a bit. I think it was a completely different world, right? Because once you get before 2020, I think that was not that. I mean, things were building up, narratives were building up, but I feel like 2020 was like when the switch got like flipped with the pandemic and everything, and things got really extreme, and it seemed to also somehow magnify the more feminist, extreme narratives at the same time. But I think you almost have to go into dating at this point, like. There's obviously certain red flags that are just like, you're just going to be out. Like, I'm not going to be attracted to this girl if she's telling me about the other 4 guys she's dating, or like she's posting a bunch of just like naked photos or something. But assuming you find a girl who like doesn't have those and you're in the Western world, I think it almost takes, you have to almost approach it being ready to do some crafting. Like, they've been exposed now through their friends, through Hollywood, through social media, to a very specific narrative and how things should be, or how some people think things should be. And a lot of that's like the not needing a man, or thinking that that's maybe a bad thing to rely on a man, and this overly, and I think it's fine to be independent. I think if I have a daughter, I'm going to want her to at least be able to be independent so she could be happy on her own, of course. But this narrative's been really pushed into their head that you don't need a man, you're almost better off without one, and it almost is like empowering to shame men a bit. So there's that influence on their left shoulder, and you almost have to be like a stronger influence on the right shoulder that can grow over time, and they can start to buy more into your frame versus the frame they were sold. So I think I'm losing game if you go in now and I mentor a lot of guys in their dating lives. And if you go in and expect day one that the girl's gonna be like perfect, everything's exactly as you wanted, I think that's a bit unrealistic in this day and age. And maybe in some countries where like the culture and the religion, the different influences are completely different, that might not be the case. But most of our viewers, I think, are either going to be Europe or United States, and that's where we live, and that's where the girls we're going to meet are going to be. So we also got to like live in fucking reality. So I think, of course, some girls are beyond saving, but then there's going to be a spectrum, and there's going to be some where, assuming you're attracted to them, you get along well, there seems to be chemistry, like there's no obvious red flags that's 100% deal breaker. Maybe you have the mindset of like, okay, let's see how her perspective on some things shift over the next few months of if we're hanging out or dating, and is she starting maybe to buy into my frame a little bit more? If I am the one making the decisions, is she allowing that to happen versus fighting it? Because I think a lot of girls, as soon as they're actually exposed to a masculine guy who's okay taking the lead and making the decisions, planning the dates, making her feel like a woman again, a lot of girls flip and they're like, oh, actually, I like this. Like, this is cool. I'm actually really like this, right? Because a lot of girls there's a lot of pigs out there, a lot of guys out there, a lot of guys out there who are soft with their bodies, but also soft with their mindsets. And I think if a lot of girls if the reality is that the last 3 guys they dated weren't taking the lead, they were pigs physically, and they had all these other things, they're almost going to be going into meeting new guys expecting that to be the case, and you almost have to maybe prove them wrong a little bit.
I like the word you use, crafting. I've never heard that before, but like crafting the relationship. I think, like I said, I've been married 10 years, so it's almost 10 years. So it's like, I'm not in that new relationship stage, but the way I see it, or from the people I'm talking to that are going through it, I feel like women are testing all the time. Like you have to have a frame or whatever you want to call it, and then be able to maintain that under pressure, because they're like, no, but this last guy that I was with let me do X, Y, and Z. And you have to turn around and be confident enough to say, yeah, but I'm not that guy, I'm this guy. And if you want to be with me, you have to do X, Y, and Z, or it's, whatever it's going to be. That's kind of like, I feel like they push and they test and they test and they test these guys that I'm talking to. And the weak, or the pig, I like that as well, weak in the body, weak in the mind, and they will do the desperation of men now to like keep a relationship or to get a relationship, for me, seems to be the issue as well. Like when I speak to some guys, they're so desperate, especially young guys, to be in a relationship or to find a woman, and I'm like, bro, maybe just focus on yourself a little bit first, and then you can. I just did a video about this, like the stages of your life that you need to worry about getting into a relationship. Like you just got married at 34 or 33 or 32, whatever it was. But you obviously build yourself up to such a level now where it's time, and you're ready and all those sort of stuff. I feel like guys are jumping into relationships early, but out of like, they need it. I don't know what they need, the validation or whatever it is, but because you like you said, you run a dating agency or something that helps men with dating, so you come across these problems all the time. So I just wanted to see, like, now for guys, what's the most common thing that you see that makes them weaker? You think, like you say, like they can't hold their own ground and hold their frame.
Yeah, I think but yeah, the way you're saying is like girls will like do these tests, you're calling them, or maybe it's just what they're used to. Maybe they don't see them as tests, but if you're a guy, they essentially are tests. Right? And it's almost like once you break, at that point, the frame is lost, we can call it, if we're going to use these terms. But maybe you show up and you are fit, and you put up, you're confident at first, you're trying to lead the way, but then the girl does one of these tests on the date where maybe like she's like now on her phone for a second while you're talking to her, which is just disrespectful, and like she knows that, but maybe she's like, oh, let's see how this guy handles this shit. And if you break there and you're just like, damn, fuck, man, at that point, I feel like you've been moved from one basket to a different basket, even if it's subconsciously in her mind. Versus if you were like, hey, like I'm not sure if something's going on, but we're on a date here. Like I'd appreciate if we just kind of stay off our phones. That in the moment, maybe you feel like some resistance to saying it, but that's gonna establish something very different. That going forward, you'll probably always have that woman's respect.
I think then I agree, but I also think being in a long-term relationship, you've been in a long-term relationship. Those tests continue forever.
You have to craft it. Like I said, yeah, exactly. They don't stop.
Yeah. So
and they actually become more complicated because now maybe it's not like, well, I'm just going to walk away on this date because like we have some established relationship and like I'm not going to end the relationship over this one thing. But I don't know if I should let this like go or not, right? You have to keep crafting it.
Yeah, I like crafting. Keep crafting it, because I think most guys out there, they believe that once they get the girl, the game's over. But it's like when the game's only just beginning, right? So it's like if you pretend to be this guy, like you said, pretend to be masculine, or you pretend to be alpha, or you pretend to have all your shit together, and you don't, then they're going to soon find out, and you break away. So that's why I'm saying, like, all these guys going out there trying to get chicks when they haven't built themselves up to a level where they can maintain.
Even if they got the hot chick that they want. And I actually agree with you. I think the game just starts then. I think a lot of guys would realize that, like, casual hookups and casual dating, at first it's intimidating, but once you kind of understand what it is, it's a bit easy. It can kind of just repeat over and over. But, like, yeah, having a girl, and again, a girl who you want, who's attractive, and that by definition means she has options as well. Like, taking that and being able to craft that into something long term, but like it works for like what you want it to work at. That's the hard work.
Yeah, that's when the work begins. But this is a different thing. But like when I was fighting, it was the same. Like every stage that you go through in life. So when I was competing and fighting, and I turned pro. Then I got to the UFC, and I was like, oh, I'm in the UFC. And they're like, yeah, the work's just begun. Like, it doesn't get easier. It gets harder. Now everyone you're fighting against in the UFC, and I used to say the same when you become a champion. It's like, that's not the end result. Then you got to maintain it. You got to retain the title. That's when the work gets tough. You know what I mean?
It's almost like the mindset that fucks you the most is the mindset of like, oh, once I just make that first million, or once I just get to the UFC or get the girlfriend, then I can just like chill. And that's... Say it's more money, more problems, right? Because also, like, once you have a business, and all of a sudden, rather than my car got in an accident and I don't have the $500 or euros to fix it, now it's like, oh fuck, we just lost like 100K in inventory. Like immediately everything gets like, now it's the real game.
Yeah, the pressure just builds and comes together. And I think like when you accept the fact that the pressure and the hard part of life and the things, the struggles are never going to go away. They're actually going to get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And you need to build yourself into a man that can withstand those things.
Yep.
You know, like you just said, as you become bigger, more industry, more money, more whatever, it just means that your problems are bigger and bigger and bigger. So the pressure is more and more and more. So there's a direct, link between how much pressure you can handle compared to how successful you can become. Yeah. And that's something that I've been talking a lot with my circle about recently, my friends, is like, most people think that, okay, if you're at the stage where you're making $2,000 a month, you think when you make 10 grand a month, you're going to be happy. Then you make 10 grand a month, and you think, okay, now when I make 50 grand a month, I'm going to be there. Then when you make 50 grand a month, you got to make 100, and it's like you got to pick the range that you want to relax in. Like, what is that range? And I think most people struggle with that ideology. But if you're sitting there, you got a normal job, you're feeding your family, you're providing whatever, you always want the next stage. Like, you always are going to want that. It's human nature to want more, you know? Yeah. So like, if you're at the moment currently making $5,000 a month, you want to make 10 grand a month. If you're at 10 grand a month, you want to make more. And I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday about it, and he was like, I think this is like a modern day problem, what they call it, first world problem, you know, because he was talking about his granddad, who's 95 or 96, and he's survived the war, and he's German, and he had to, when Germany lost World War II, he was like 17, 18 or whatever he was, and he had to walk back from Russia, basically. So you go from Russia to Berlin. I don't know how long it took him, but a long time, right? Yeah. And along the way, they were basically refugees that had to go back to Germany. They died along the way. They were living on this much bread every day, you know, whatever. And there was landmines. They said they had to walk along this street that was this long, this wide, and vehicles would come. And when the vehicles came, because they'd be going the other way, you had to move out the way, but people would move out the way and step on landmines and blow up. So every time a vehicle came, you were scared of stepping out the way because you might blow up. But you had no choice, or you can get run over. So it was like, maybe get blow up or run over.
And now you're afraid to walk into the gym because someone might like judge you or something.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we were saying, like, what happened was his granddad's brother like fainted because of the walk, and the group that they were with carried on going, and that group got blown up. So if he had not fainted, they would have been dead. Yeah. Right. Then he got back to wherever he was in Germany. I'm going to mess up the locations. And he then got a job as a painter, and his boss told him, you need to go to, say it's Berlin, you need to go to the other side of Berlin, pick up this wagon, it's got loads of paint that we need, and you need to bring it back. It's like a 6-hour walk. And then you got to carry it back for 6 hours. Yeah. That's your day's work, you know what I mean? And he's just happy to be able to work. And then after he finished work, he had to go back and build his own house by hand. And we're complaining about, like,
chicks.
Exactly. So it's just like a perspective game, because that's what I'm trying to say. Like, the whole story is to say, like, everything's about perspective and where you're at. And you're obviously a super successful guy now, married, just built yourself a mansion in Marbella. You know, you're making these big moves. When for you, what's the like? You feel content with where you're at? You're still pushing to grow, or what? How do you deal with that? You know,
it's tough. I feel like it's tough because I feel like it's human nature to always be, okay, well, what am I gonna do next, right? Especially as you start to get to different levels of growth, you get a little bit addicted. At least I get a little bit addicted to it. And like the first week in the villa was just like, oh man, look how nice the kitchen looks. Let's look at the pool right there. Let's lay by the pool right there. It's nice. We built this, man. We designed. You know what I mean? But then after like a week, it just almost like leaves your mind. It's like, well, this is just my office. This is where I work now. Oh, there's a pool there. But I just walk by it now on the way to my car to go to the gym or whatnot. You know, so and not that I don't appreciate it at all. I still try to, you know, like last night, Julie went to bed and I kind of just went up and sat out on like the terrace, just silence, darkness, and try to just enjoy things. But I don't know. I don't know if I have the answer. I don't know if I'm the guy who has the answer how to balance that, because now I'm just like grinding this next project that we're going to release. And then I'm sure after that it's the next thing. And I don't know.
I mean, let's take it back.
How do you manage that?
Well, I'm on the chase. Like I see like there's 3 different parts of life that we have to try and equalize. You know, and relationships is obviously one that's super, super important. Your physical health and mental health is super, super important. And then your business and your money. And I spent my 20s like focusing 100% on physicality because I was fighting. And I got to a level where I was a professional athlete, so I smashed that one, smashed it. I got married, smashed that one. Wife's amazing, got family, got kids, smashed it. Money's still not exactly at the same level I think those 3 should be at. You know, I'm still doing very well, but I'm not where I see as the same. But as now I've been focusing, you said it at the podcast earlier, I got a bit out of shape at the beginning of the year. As I've been focusing on the money and the business and building, these other 2 start like falling off. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a constant game, you know, trying to balance out our life. And I talk about this in fighting. When I was the best shape of my life, winning fights, knocking people out, I was probably in the worst state of the rest of my life.
Like the relationship and the money.
Was trash, had no money, sleeping on the floor. But like they used to always say, like a happy fighter is never a good fighter. Because you need like hunger and pain to translate into a fight. So trying to utilize that now to find balance in my life is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find like what the stages would be at. And again, I don't think I have the answer. That's why I asked you. I was hoping that's again, I started this podcast to bring people on to ask questions that I was doing it selfishly. I want to know things. And selfishly, obviously starting this YouTube journey that I'm going on, I brought you on because you've been doing YouTube for 7, 8, 9, I don't know, years.
7. Obviously, I'm not too good with my years. I think 7 years though.
I'm the same. Time doesn't exist. Let's say 7 years. And obviously smashed it. You got like over 1 million subscribers. You told me before the podcast, like, you were in the trenches, did the hard work, done your 10,000 hours of editing, camera footage, all this sort of stuff. You know, so how's that journey been for you from day one? Like, what inspired you to start YouTube, and how have you found that journey? You know,
I guess I felt a bit lost, kind of when I was going through university. Like I was going through the steps I was supposed to go through, but didn't really feel like you know, I got my degree in computer science, and I started working at this company writing some like code. I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but this isn't what I want to do. And then I started doing personal training because my cousin had started, and I was kind of getting like addicted to the gym and bodybuilding. So I quit the software job, started working as a trainer, and then I did that for a couple of years, but you don't make that much money from it. And then I was just like living in the gym, and I stopped caring about working out after a little bit because I'm just there all the time anyway. And the YouTube, I guess I started looking to some YouTubers at the time. I don't know if you know, like Elliot Hulse. He's one of like the OG like self-improvement.
I know nobody. This is the thing. I know nobody about YouTube. I'm like a
yeah. Anyway, some masculine guy had his life together, was starting to build his businesses. He was jacked, and he had this series called Yo Elliot, where like people would send him a question like, "Yo Elliot, you know, I saw this girl, like, or my girlfriend's doing this, or Yo Elliot, I don't know what to do," and he'd be like, he would just sit there and answer. There was no editing or anything. It was a really old like camera footage, just a straight shot. And he'd be like breathing in between. You know what I mean? It was a different era of YouTube, very raw. But I'd watch one of these videos every morning, and it started to get me motivated, got me thinking like bigger, and like, what do I actually want to do? And like, maybe it is possible to do different shit. So I think because of the impact that had on me, I wanted to document my journey on YouTube as well. and I kind of at first really enjoyed, and I still do, enjoyed like the filming and the editing aspect of it. I guess like I have a creative part of me that gets satisfied through that. But then as I started, you know, increasing my level a little bit in with my fitness or with the businesses or with the YouTube channel itself started growing, and I started seeing a bit of a community of guys forming in the comments who were relating to me. I guess that also started to give me a deeper sense of purpose that fuck, now it's on me to show these guys like a positive example of what I can do here. And I kind of shouldered that responsibility, and that has been, I guess, a lot of the, it's like we were talking about before, like what's the next level? What's the next level? What's the next level? And I think part of me feels like I got to continue that example, and I have to keep to the next level, even if maybe it's not always money. Maybe it's, you know, something else that I'm improving. But yeah.
I think because that's super interesting, because that's for me kind of what I'm doing. Like starting YouTube and like this, people call it like a personal brand or whatever you want to call it. I feel like that gives me a reason, like, to improve. I know it sounds stupid because you obviously should just improve anyway, but like with people are watching, and you got to get better, and you got to improve, and you got to level up, and you got to do these things. And like, there's a guy close to me that I talk to a lot about personal branding, and he said like, you should use it as an opportunity to do the things you want to do in life and improve yourself as much as possible. So if you're, and remember, if you're building a personal brand or a YouTube, if you have something wrong with you, a weakness, they are going to expose it. If you're fat, you're going to get called fat. If you're ugly, you're going to get called ugly. Like, people are brutal on the internet, right? So, but don't use that as like, don't feel bad about it. You see that, okay, maybe I'm a bit fat. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to get better in better shape. So again, with my journey at the moment, fitness journey, like I said, I was a pro athlete in amazing shape, but there's so many pro athletes that end up being fat pieces of shit. So many, especially fighters, because they lose all kind of whatever direction. So for me, I'm like, okay, I need to be in shape, because if I'm going to talk to people about responsibility and I'm going to talk to people about accountability, I can't be a fucking fat piece of shit eating burgers. But as I started making money and business and all the rest of it, when affluence comes and flying private and also business, whatever, like, and going out for nice dinner, you just put on weight, you know what I mean? I had to readjust. And for me, I feel like I'm, what do you say, shouldering? I like that word, shouldering the responsibility of I'm trying to inspire a younger generation with my content. And for me to do that, I've got to be an inspiring guy, right? So that's kind of, I'm showing my journey, whatever you want to call it. But I never thought of it like that. The way you worded it, I quite like that. But you've gone through so many phases already, I guess, with your YouTube. Like, because I watched some of the earlier stuff, and you did some pickup stuff, some fitness stuff. Like, what was the first thing you started with on YouTube?
At first, it was probably like a combination of a bunch of shit. But then some of these videos when I was living in Boston, like going up and talking to random girls and just, I don't know. And it wasn't good, but again, it was documenting. It was documenting my progress and showing, we'll see, this is how my rejections look. And I think actually it's one of the reasons I got a lot of followers at first. I think a lot of these videos went viral because I showed some like brutal rejections mixed with maybe like a bit of a smoother conversation. And that was a different era where like this idea of like cold approach pickup on the streets was glorified. That's also before social media and Tinder and all this shit. Like, you did also have to put yourself out there more to meet women. These days, you don't really have to. You know, it's not as needed. So I think that the content really matched where guys' mindset was at the time, and it was just like the right content at the right time. And those videos helped build the channel a bit, because those are the ones getting a lot of views at first. But after a while, I got kind of sick of filming those ones. And also, I didn't have like a legit videographer, so I'd either have Julia, literally like with like this shitty camera like around the corner while I'm talking to these girls, or like my buddy Dave. And half the time I'd go and I'd be like, oh, that was a sick one. You know, did you get that? And then I'd look at the clip and he was like filming his knee or something, because I had these people who were nervous, not knowing how to use the camera gear. So at some point I was like, I'm not gonna do those videos anymore, but I can look back at them now like fondly, because it was like it was an experience, it was an adventure trying to film those ones.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like I always say, the two things I don't think I do very well is stand-up comedy and singing. I think they're my two. Like, you know, when you jump off a plane or like have a cage fight, okay, no problem. But to stand up and do stand-up comedy, I think the third one I should add to my list is videoing myself approaching women and talking to them. That is a pretty raw like thing to do. But so, like, then you transferred into more like weights and gym stuff, like you said, become a personal trainer, right?
Yeah, well, the personal training was all before the YouTube at this, so I was still like into the fish. So at the same time, I was also making videos, and I'm just someone who's naturally skinnier and has a harder time holding weight. So I did a lot of videos like my diet for bulking up, my routine for bulking up and adding muscle as a skinny guy, and those were probably the two foundations of the channel, like the picking up women and the like building muscle and gaining weight. Those were the foundations at the beginning. And then I think as it progressed, those, for a while, those were still like the content. But then I think I started like showing my life a little bit more versus just like, hey, this is my calories I'm eating for today or something. And then people started connecting with that a little bit more. And I think that's when I started feeling maybe the responsibility that like, these people can't be watching me for a year and I'm living in this shithole apartment in Boston still. You know, it's like 300, I ride my bicycle around. Like I also need to start leveling up, making some money and stuff. So I think one thing, I had aspirations to do it anyway, but it adds a bit of level of accountability.
Yeah, your own accountability is super important. We were talking about, I don't know the guy's name, and you said the YouTuber.
Yeah.
And I said, I literally know no one on YouTube. The two people I know on YouTube is you and Mike Thurston, because I was on his pod. So, and I've watched.
That's all you need.
That's all I need, right? But they obviously both masculine guys into the gym, all that sort of stuff. And I literally thought my perception of YouTube was like, oh, it's just guys that go to the gym and lift weights. So what am I, you know, do you see like vlogs that, you know, I watch like, because I just made a vlog my first time in Manchester, but I was like, most of the vlogs I've watched has been yours and been Mike's, and it's like, yeah, just gonna go to the gym, do a quick session. I'm like, why would anyone want to watch me go to the gym? It's always confused me, and I don't. One of the things that I think I do very well and do very badly as well is I decided to transition out of fighting and into something new, and I literally have not trained fighting since 3 years ago. I stopped fighting. I was like, I'm done. On to the next thing.
But you mess around with Tate, right? You spar a little bit.
That's the only time, right?
Yeah,
literally the only time. So it's like, but that footage, I guess people would relate to and like. So I could do some footage on me going to the gym, but I just don't. Again, talking about me walking up to women and talking all that sort of stuff. I think it's very, very personal what you do, like videoing yourself, going to the gym, all that sort of stuff. Was it hard for you at first to have a camera and talk to it, and you know?
Yeah, no. If you look at my really first ones, they're a bit awkward, right? I think, and it's one of those things because you don't want to tell people, hey, everyone should start their personal brands because maybe it's not the right phase of their journey to do it, or some people probably don't care to do it, right? They'd rather just focus on, I don't know, building up their real estate business or whatever it is. But I think that when you get used to talking on camera, it helps your communication skills a lot, because I'd be watching back these videos, and at first I did this like weird thing where I guess I was nervous. I'd like talk out the side of my mouth as I was filming, and you start to catch these things and become a better communicator as well. So I think that it was intimidating, and then filming in public. Now I could, we could walk out here, walk down to Puerto Banús. I might get mad if like a loud car comes by. It's like, oh, they're not gonna hear, like, I'm gonna film the shit again. But like, I'm not worried about someone looking over and watching it. And at first it would be like, I'd go to my neighborhood in Boston, and there'd be like one person crossing the other side of the road, and I'd be like, oh, I hope they didn't see the camera. This is weird, man. But it was like little by little, I got desensitized to it, I guess, and that adds to overall confidence. That's building confidence, I guess, is trying to do things that you're not kind of comfortable doing.
Yeah, no, I'm an extremely confident man. I'm the same. I'm like, at the moment, if I'm thinking about doing a vlog, and I'm completely fine with having a videographer and someone videoing me and me doing my thing, because that's no problem. But me having to hold one and talk to it while there's people around in a restaurant, I need to get over that. I will get over it. Again, you'll see the journey or whatever you want to call it. But I do honestly think, as sad as it sounds or whatever, but it's like inspiring to see people like yourself who build yourself up on the YouTube thing. And that's why people love it, and that's why it's such a big thing, right? But and the same with Mike, like, because Mike, you go back to his old YouTube stuff, it's like him in Leeds or somewhere like that in the UK, like a meathead in his, and now how he's developed into quite a great communicator and all that sort of stuff that he does as well. So I think it's great for people to see that. And I believe, like you just said, that's why I'm doing it, starting a personal brand, putting the pressure on yourself. You can only become a better man by going through those journeys and those struggles. So I think, I'm not, like you said, not everyone needs to start a personal brand, it's definitely something that I'm excited about for it. So then the next stage, I guess, within the YouTube journey for you is like then starting businesses on the side. So you just at the beginning of your YouTube journey, you were just videoing yourself, making vlogs, doing pickup, doing whatever, all these little things. How were you financing yourself at this point? Because obviously no money was coming in from what you were doing. Yeah,
I tried to sell some workout programs or like a confidence course, but I didn't have enough viewers really that, like, I'd put weeks or months of effort into something, I'd release it and make like $1,000, and like that's not for weeks, months of effort doesn't like $1,000. It's not going to work. But I had saved up some money from that software job. That was the one smart thing I did. Is before I quit, I worked that to a point where like I had maybe a year of savings or something for living. Again, it wasn't like a super nice apartment, but that I was like, I can try just YouTube this year, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go back to working a software job or something. But I don't want to do that. Seems more exciting to me. It seems more like I could do something meaningful. So let's see how this year goes. But I guess as I started getting more subscribers or views, I started having companies reach out to me, and they'd pay me, I don't know, a couple grand to do like a video integration or something. And then that's when I realized, okay, well, if they're booking, if they liked it and they made more money off it than they spent, and they're booking another 2 videos, well, now is the time for me to reintroduce like my own products or offerings. And then I think that naturally became like the next frontier. Because at first it was just workout programs or things like that. But then I was like, well, I've always kind of had like the aspiration of having like my own business. It's always felt cool. I don't know. It's just been something I've always wanted to do. It's always felt cool. Like, oh, that's mine. So then that's when I launched. The first was the clothing brands. Obviously, we have the supplement brands now, and the workout app, I guess, because I was like, I'm not going to sell these just like workout PDFs or like programs online. I want it to be more like, it can reach a broader audience. It can actually be cool and different. So I hired a development team in Germany, and actually, we don't need to get into the app, but it was built from the ground, and it does a lot of things that other apps don't do. And that's what made me like proud to put my name behind it. It's like, it's not just another workout program. Like if you can get mine or his or X or Y or Z, like they're all the same. It's like, no, it's cool. Like if you try it, trust me, you're going to like it.
Well, I guess it's like that creator side of you, right? You like start by creating the content, videoing it, editing it, sort of like offering something to the world. That's kind of what you want to do with the business. You want to create it, you want to be a part of it, and you want to offer it out to the world. Now, I always say this quote, and it's actually someone that come on the podcast that said it, but they're like, the money in your bank account always reflects the value you add to the world.
Well, that's the thing. For a while, when you don't have money, you almost look at it as like a bad thing, or like the rich people are greedy or lucky, or they're like slaving people away, or you just have. I always had this kind of a negative mindset and I was like, I wouldn't even want to have a car that's nicer than this basic car, or have a house that's bigger than this, because that's like, it's bad. I just had that in my mind. Like, this is bad. There's something bad about that.
I just saw Sean Strickland. He's the middleweight champion right now in UFC. He basically said exactly what you just said. Like, and that, for me, it just seems that his mind on money is warped because he believes everyone that drives a nice car or has nice clothes is evil. And he's like, but he puts it as in like, for a man to be masculine or to be a good man, he doesn't need to drive a nice car and have nice clothes. And I agree with that entirely. But there's nothing wrong with dressing well and driving a nice car, and he's kind of demonizing it out of his own, not insecurity is the wrong word, but out of his own weird warped view on money. Like I think a lot of people that have come up hard and have struggled, they have the same opinion that money's evil, or the people that have money are evil. It's like, once you flip that mentality, I think it's like a very key moment in your life.
Well, yeah, what I realized was, if I create something and now you're willing to take your 100 euros hard-earned money, and for you see that what I'm offering is valuable enough that you're going to trade me that money for it. Well, that means I created something that is
worthwhile.
It's worthwhile for you. It makes sense for you to do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done that. Of course, when you're like you have a personal brand, there's going to be maybe some percentage of people who like want to support you, but that's not going to keep things going, right? That might get you like some change in your pocket.
I got €2, bro. €2. I'm amazed. But honestly, it blew my mind. I was like, some guy just sent me €2, but for what? Oh, I like the videos. Cool. Amazing. I never even really. It never entered my mind.
No, and that part of it's amazing. If people want us, and the fact that I know a lot of people have supported me, I'm not trying to minimize that, because that's incredible. Maybe that's what gave some of the businesses the breath they needed to even get to step 2. So I'm not trying to take away from that. Anyone who's supported anything, like I bow down to you, like it means the world to me. But it's just that mindset shift of like, if I create this and someone's willing to trade me their money for it, that's a positive thing, not a negative thing.
Yeah, I mean. 100%. I mean, what's now for you? What do you get like? This is again something I've struggled with from doing the UFC journey and fighting in front of 20,000 people and all these, having these highs and these lows or whatever. I now struggle quite a lot with excitement, maybe I'll use that word. Like I said, again, that €2, I know we're going on about it, but that for me was an exciting, like, wow, that's cool. And it's not got to do with the money, just to do with the achievement, if you want to call it that, like the accolade. But I find it very, very, very difficult to get excited about a lot of things because I've lived a very varied life. And with you are the same. When you've had this journey through YouTube and you made all this money and you built your own house and you've done all these amazing things, like, how do you push yourself with, like, that's going to be cool? How do you find things that excite you?
That's a good question. And it's actually something I've thought about recently, because back for the first 4 years on YouTube, I would think about the YouTube video, film it, edit it, and the moment of me watching it by myself, like just in silence, or I guess the video has sound, but you know what I mean, in a quiet place, that was like such an exciting moment for me every time, seeing it all come together, that part of it's, I think that's what kept me going. But I'd just be like, fuck, I made that. Oh, that shot came out dope, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'd really enjoy it. Not that I'm completely numb to it now. Like, I'll still watch my videos and be like, that was a good video. Like, I'm excited for people to see this, but it's not the same, like, spike of achievement and emotion that it was at first. And I guess that's a battle, right? Because otherwise you can start to become a bit numb. And I felt I go through some stretches now where I do feel a bit numb to, like, why am I fucking killing myself every day? And then just like, nothing seems that cool. That's not my mindset normally, but there are the weeks where that's how it feels.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, and obviously,
it's like, what's the point of doing all this effort? Yeah.
And then when you have the personal brand, obviously you've got millions of subscribers, all this sort of stuff. You get invited to all these places to do all these things. You know, like,
yeah, the first few times it happens,
it's
like,
amazing.
This is the coolest thing ever. Oh my god! Oh, this guy recognized that's the coolest thing ever. And then you find yourself like, man, really, this guy's gonna come and try and talk to me right now. And it's like, this is the guy who's watched my videos, and he's like, that's the best thing ever. And like, but sometimes you get in a mindset of like, fuck, I can deal with this now, man. Like,
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. For me, that's a struggle. That's a real struggle to understand how to keep that on balance or on point, or to find the. For me now, again, like transferring from fighting into business or into personal brand or anything, like I said, those moments, those sales, you said selling courses or making those little, creating those things, I still get. Now I get more of a rush, which some people might find it crazy. I get more of a rush from that guy sending me $2, whatever it was, to fighting the UFC. Like the rush of me competing and fighting is done now. I've done it so many times, or I did it so many times. I don't have this. There's no adrenaline there for me now. I get it from something else. So I'm saying, you're 7 years in, consistency with YouTube. Obviously, you've added on all these other businesses and things. But how do you try and keep consistent with that? You know, what do you think is the riding force? Because now you got money. You could probably chill. You could probably, you know what I mean? What keeps you, like you said, killing yourself every day?
I don't know if I could live with myself, because when we moved into the villa, I had a moment in my head where there was one voice in my head that was like, you did it, bro. Like, you got the house. You have more than you'll ever need, right? There's no real purpose to you could actually relax now, and it could be feasible. Obviously not like stop everything, but you could bring everything down to 50%, and with that extra 50%, you can spend it with Julia or travel more and just like enjoy life and not worry so much. And I started sitting with that. But then like the other voice in my head was like, but we've done so much in these like 7 years. Like, if we keep pushing like this crazy, like imagine it was like each year almost becomes a bit crazier that what we can achieve. And it's like, I would, in a year, if I chilled, I'd be sitting back like, but what would have happened year 8, 9, and 10 and obviously you can't do that forever, but like, I'm not ready yet. Because I'm still like, it would eat away at me. It would eat away at me, being like, what would have happened if we kept pushing?
Well,
you know?
What is going to happen? What is 2024? Like, you have anything on the horizon? Any projects? Anything new that you're doing, or outlook's changed? Or like you said, got the house, got the wife, money's in the bank. Like, now you could probably take bigger risks than you could ever take before, right?
Yeah, no, that's one way to think about it too. Now, at some point, you have to shift your mindset on money to like accumulation mode to like, well, we might as well utilize this as a tool now, right? It's more from like accumulation to seeing it as a tool. I don't know, because I still don't try to think too far ahead. I still am like, well, okay, what steps can we take this year so that Edge, it's my clothing brand, grows another 20% or 50% if we could, whatever. And for the supplements, and that one's gotten started a bit slower. How do we get that closer to the level of the clothing brand? And I try to think very incrementally, which I think for me has been a blessing, but I don't know. I do have a new project that will be releasing a week or two after this video that I'm not going to say yet. But it's very different than the other businesses. It's like a supplement or a piece of clothes. It's a very different type of thing. Okay, so I'm excited for that. That's what I've been killing myself on the last couple of months.
Well, I think what you said's good for the listeners because as successful as you are, everyone I speak a lot about success, a lot about motivation, a lot about these goal setting, all this sort of stuff. And I even had the discussion yesterday or a couple of days ago. Oh, what are your goals for 2024? And I was like, bro, my goal is for today. Like, it's not for then. Like, if you set out this big vision for the next year and who you're going to become and what you're going to do and all that sort of stuff, that's great to have the vision and the understanding of where you want to go. Like you just said, you want Edge to be 50% bigger or whatever. But how can I impact that thing today? Like, that's how I try and live my life. Like, today, I need to work as hard as I can in the gym, make as much money as I can possibly, and make my wife and my family as happy as possible. Today, not in 6 months, I'm going to have X, Y, and Z, because I think those people that think like that long term, I think that comes good when it comes to investing, maybe, and money and stuff. But like, I think it's so easy to make an excuse and put it off. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, the way I would think about it, because I did a Q&A recently and someone was like, how do I overcome this belief that like making a lot of money is impossible? And I definitely used to have that belief. But it was kind of the same thing. It's like, I think too many people get focused on like, I just want it to happen already. So yeah, so what can be done in the next 3 months? Definitely. And I try to think more like the same, what you're saying, like this urgency, like it has to be done today. What has to be done today? But with the frame of also like what has to be done today so that in 6 months, like I'm at that point, right? Or like, so that it's a better question to ask yourself might be like, okay, if I realistically want to be making like, let's say millions in 2 or 3 years, well, what needs to be like really fucking like urgently done today so that happens?
Yeah, because you have to understand that, again, a great example of it. You want to become a millionaire, you're not going to do that work in a job. You need to start a business. You need to do something that can be scaled. You need all these different. So a lot of people sitting there thinking, I want to be a millionaire. And it's like, okay, but you're not going to work. You're not going to work in a 9-to-5 job and become a millionaire. Very, very few people do that. CEOs of Google, you know, but so.
Well, so I had someone, because I said the same thing in a video, and then someone sent me some statistics. If we're saying a millionaire, like making $1 million or more per year, we're right.
Yes,
if you're saying a millionaire, like you've accumulated it over your career.
That's gay. That's accumulating money's gay.
Okay, just to separate it, but someone's going to comment and be like, no, most millionaires actually work a career. And it's like, well, yes, most people who slowly accumulate $1 million.
And accumulate property and they're boring and they have no cash flow and they make $100 grand a month.
It's an important distinction. It's important. When we say millionaire, I'm on the same wavelength as you that I think a millionaire means $1 million or more per year.
Cash flow. That's what I'm saying. You make $100 grand a month. That's a millionaire to me makes $100 grand a month. That's how I look at it. Like, yes, okay, you can squirrel away money in your bank and you can end up having $1 million when you're 60. Yeah. Cool story, bro. Like no one wants that, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Anyway, so we'll wrap up because time is of the essence and everything else. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate you time here. I want to ask a few more things.
Yeah, of course.
Which I'm sure you've gone over a couple of times and on your channel and all the rest of it, but you just built this mega villa that you love and you're happy and you're content in, and I'm sure you want a bigger one in a couple of years, but it's fine. But why did you pick Marbella? What made you come to Marbella with that?
To me, it's like an interesting fusion between, you have a lot of first world amenities. Like I can order anything on Amazon that I need, it'll be here tomorrow or the next day, right? But it feels like, also, the venues here are world class. If you want to go, like Lania, we talked about that. I've been there a few times since we talked. You gave me the recommendation. I've been twice and had, 2 or 3 times and had the ribeye every time, and it's delicious. But also, like the summer venues here are cool. I'm so used to in the States where in the summer you have to travel somewhere to go to vacation. Maybe if you're in Miami or Los Angeles or something, okay. But it's not the same as going to like Nido. I don't know if you've been Nido Estepona or Playa Padre or the Casanis, right? Like these really cool venues on the beach. And I'm not someone who really likes the nightlife too much. But if I'm a day that I can set aside to not do too much work and I can go at 3 p.m. after working in the morning and, I have some drinks and some steak or some sushi on the beach, that's amazing. And Marbella offers that. Not many other places offer that.
Yeah. Most people ask the question that we all come to the same conclusion. You have 3 places to pick from for that sort of lifestyle. What you just described, 3 places. Miami, which you mentioned, which is in America, so kind of, in my opinion, it's cancelled out. But anyway, Miami, Dubai, and then here. So they're like I can't think of some, maybe Bali. You could say Bali, but for me, Bali doesn't have the first world kind of amenities or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
To the same level. But yes, out there, what makes you cancel out the other 2?
Miami's cool, and maybe I could live in South Florida, like near Miami. I don't think I could live on a daily basis in Miami. It's just a lot. It's a lot. I don't know how else to say it. It's a lot. I love it, and I love going there, and I have a lot of friends there, and there's a lot of good influencers to do podcasts with and those things. So every time I go to the States, I try to stop in Miami, and it's also easier flying there a little bit from Europe. I don't know that I could live there. But I haven't tried. Maybe at some point I have to try, or maybe somewhere near Miami.
I think you made the right decision.
Dubai, I've never been to.
No,
I've never been to Dubai, so I can't cancel it out. To me, I don't know. I like the answer I would give would be like, it doesn't seem like it has the same like natural beauty as Marbella. Maybe Marbella seems a bit more wholesome type of energy and vibe, and like a better place to raise a family, which is around the corner. Whereas Dubai seems perhaps a bit like a facade or a bit fake. But that's like me hearing this from other people and me agreeing with it based on what I've seen. But I can't personally, from personal experience.
I can't believe you've not been to Dubai. That's very interesting, especially in the YouTube space and everything else. Like, for me, Dubai is an incredible place to visit. Like, incredible, and there's amazing people there. And we talk about the the YouTube space or the influencer space or whatever. Everyone's there, especially this time of year. You should definitely go, and you should definitely go with Yulia. You'll have an incredible time, but don't live there. Your everything you just described is 100% true, and also in the summer it's unbearable because it's so unbelievably hot.
Well, if I was an American, I might consider it for tax purposes. Because as a U.S. citizen, it doesn't matter where you live, you still pay income to the States. And if I wasn't American, because I know there's people who do 6 months Dubai, 6 months in Marbella, don't pay any taxes basically, and that would be amazing. But for me, I'm not going to give out my U.S. passport at this point, so I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's another angle I wouldn't think about because I don't have to think about that. But that's. All right, interesting. Okay, well, I agree. Marbella is a spot. And now that you've moved here, like I said, I just had Rob on the podcast here. I think Marbella is on the way up.
Seems that way.
In lots of different ways as well. And we just had Lamborghini and Dark Global create a whole Lamborghini villas. And
I saw those.
You can now
cool.
buy property with crypto in Marbella, which is a new thing you could do. So I feel like we're like at the bleeding edge of when it comes to Europe as well.
Well, that's the thing, because my family's Spanish. My dad's from Sevilla, and I love Sevilla. Very traditional Spanish city. The food there, I might even take it over the food of Marbella, because I just love like the Spanish tapas, right? And it's also like the prices for things. You're like, wait, are you sure you don't want more for this meal? Like, are you sure? Because we all ate a feast with a bunch of wine, and you're telling me 30 euros or something. You know what I mean? But I love Sevilla. I couldn't live there though, because Marbella takes still a lot of the good Spanish wholesomeness and the vibe, and obviously the amazing weather and views. But it brings the more bleeding edge type of things and businesses and those type of people into one place. Yeah, so it's a good combo.
I feel like everyone here is trying to do something, trying to make something happen, trying to move forward, and trying to make money. Which again in Sevilla, any other little Spanish place, Sevilla is not small, but you know what I mean.
Well, no, still when I'm like working there all the time, like my family there, they're like, "Is he really like leaving lunch to go back to work?" I'm like, I gotta go. Like, I'm sorry.
It's Friday afternoon. Friday afternoons we don't work. Saturdays we don't work. Sundays we don't work. Mondays, yeah.
Well, you walk around and you see you see it here too, but in Sevilla you really see it. We're probably going like to the gym at 11 a.m. after getting some work done, and just like all the bars are full of people drinking beers. I'm like, I'm half Spanish and I've spent so much time in Sevilla, but there's a disconnect between there from my mind.
Well, it's going to be the weekend soon, so maybe we're going to have a beer now. But thanks so much, David. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you sharing your journey. Like I said, for me, the whole YouTube space is completely new. I know you, I know Mike. Hopefully I can follow in your footsteps, but appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Anytime you have any questions or want any input or anything on YouTube, I'm a YouTube nerd, okay. And I geek out to it, so I'd love to chop it up.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much. Sweet. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. I'm putting out a podcast every single week, so I'll see you then.